Alright guys, we're finally back. I finally have my shop back. I finally am not coaching any sports, and it's finally warming up in the shop to continue working. So I know it's been a long time since we posted last. I've actually done a lot of filming since then, but I had a little help from some little minions, and it ended up deleting all of the stuff that I had filmed. So I wanted to walk you guys through where we're at right now, where we're at on the frame with the car. I hope to give you a little spoiler or give you a little hint as to some of the modifications that we're going to end up doing with the car. I've already done some of the work, but we're going to have to actually go back and reverse it, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But I did first of all wanted to get some questions answered that I had from some people about the little frame jig that I made here and how it all kind of came to be. And I didn't want to spend, basically I didn't want to spend $1,000 on a rotisserie for really the only time that I'm probably ever going to use it. So what I did was I started doing a little bit of research on, you know, homemade stuff, and I saw some different ideas and I saw some different plans and things that guys were doing. There was one with two engine stands, and they did some welding and some fabricating and made a rotisserie out of that. Again, I didn't really want to spend any money, and I had a bunch of lumber laying around from some stuff that my wife and I were doing around the house. And so what I did was I came up with this jig. Basically, it's just a bunch of 2x4s with some plywood cut, like a 90-degree piece, cut with a radius on the back side. I'll show you that in a second, so that it can roll over. And really, it rolls over really easily. I mean, I can do it with one arm. It's not that big of a deal to roll it over and work on the bottom side of the car. So it works really cool. It's really neat. But I did, like I said, did have some people ask like how I did it or what I used. So I'll walk you through it and we can take a look at it real quick. All right. So first of all, like I was saying, it's just a bunch of 2x4s. And then what I did is I took a piece of plywood, I think this is a 1/4-inch piece here, and just cut a radius on it, connected the dots basically, put it on here, and then it just, like I say, it just rolls over real nice. I had to cut the 2x4 to match. I'm sure if you did a little bit more planning, you know, wouldn't have to do that. But basically it's just bolted up right here through the core support. Same thing up here, and just bolted right to where the factory, some of the factory components went, so I didn't have to drill any holes, didn't have to do anything like that to get it on there. On the back side, it's right through the factory body mount. So if you look, we'll look in the trunk in a minute, this just goes right through factory body mount. I will probably have to do something different when I go to strip the whole bottom of the car, because I won't be able to get into this area here. So we will have to take a look at that and see what needs to be done. But same thing on the back, just built a little platform for the car to sit on. This is actually a 3/4-inch piece of plywood on the back, just because it was a little bit heavier. Again, just cut it on a radius, matched the 2x4s, and bolted it to the car. Same thing, you know, on the back, I used some supports in here to just reinforce it. Again, just bolted right through a factory body mount, but I had to, you know, reinforce it just to keep it from wobbling back and forth as I, you know, rotated it up and down and stuff like that. One of the things that I did is I actually offset the car to this back side here, so a little bit of the weight is on that back, so it rolls over, you know, really nicely. Real easy to do. You can do it with one hand. My daughter can, you know, lift it up a little bit too. But again, roll her over. Easy. All right, so before we get started working on the frame, I just kind of wanted to give you a look at the underside. where we're at right now. This is the only rust that I've been able to find on the entire car. It rusted through the fender, so we'll have to do some patch panels on the fender, but we will have to build a patch panel for this here and fix that. I don't know, this sounds pretty solid. There is some Bondo right here. The car had been in an accident before they painted it red. Originally the car was white. Before they painted it red, they did some repairs on it. Put a patch panel in here. There's some lead work. Some lead work here on this fin. Some here as well. And then it looks like they had to rebuild a little bit of these taillight mounts as well. Some here too. So it's really kind of cool. But we will have to fix some of that work. There's some dents and stuff here. There was some Bondo here as well. But other than that, the car is in really, really good shape. No rust. Again, same thing down here. So we'll have to create some patch panels, fab up some patch panels for these and the fenders before we get the car painted. But we'll talk a little bit more about the paint in a minute. But what I do want to start on is cover where we're at with the frame. So last time when I showed it to you guys, I had the car off the frame and we were getting ready to strip the frame. In one of my previous videos that I shot earlier, a couple months ago, I went through and we stripped the frame and did everything like that. My kids got a hold of the camera and actually erased all of the footage. So this is where we're at right now. I've cut the exhaust off. We're actually going to completely discard that. We're going to build a complete new exhaust system. It's going to be pretty cool. We'll get to that, you know, down the road when we get ready to put the body back on the frame. But rear axle we're going to reuse. We're going to have to rebuild it. Right now I'm looking into doing a complete disc brake conversion kit on it. You can use the newer, I don't know, early 90s Nissan 200SX rear brakes, and I believe they'll bolt up. You'll have to fab up some hangers and stuff for the calipers, but that's the plan right now, is we're going to do that. We're also going to get rid of some of these tabs on here and possibly the leaf springs. We may end up doing some airbags on the rear of this, so we're looking at that. But again, the whole frame right now is stripped down completely. We've got all the fuel lines, brake lines, all that stuff sitting over here. We're going to build an entire new fuel system. We're going to build an entire new brake system, and we're going to keep it out of the engine compartment as much as possible. I don't want any wires or any lines going anywhere in the engine compartment if necessary. So we're going to completely strip all this, and we're going to build all new lines and everything like that. Here's all of the steering components and front suspension. Originally I was looking at doing airbags on the front of this. We may still do airbags on the front of it, but we're gonna have to cut these off and fab up a new upper mount, because the way that the upper control arm mounts is it mounts right to this. So we're gonna have to fabricate something and maybe end up having to fabricate a new upper control arm and lower control arm to match, so that we can run airbags. But that's going to be a little bit down the road. Right now I'm still trying to decide if I want to go that retro mod type feel with it, or if I want to just do a restoration on it. So springs, drive shaft, teeny weeny drive shaft, all that stuff. We will need new bushings and all that as well. But that's where we're at right now. Like I said, frame's all stripped. We're going to get it ready for paint. I've started grinding a little bit of the rust and grime off. As I was doing this, I thought about polishing the frame completely and doing a full chrome-ish frame. I thought about that for a second, and I hate chrome. So we are not going to do that, but I did come up with a pretty cool idea after doing some research at work on some SEMA trucks and things like that. I did come up with a pretty cool idea that I hope will turn out pretty good, and we'll actually carry it over to the body of the car as well and do the body the same way. So that's where we're at with this. I want to take you over to my bench real quick, and we will talk about one of the modifications that we're going to do, give you a little hint to it. Right, basically tell you what it is. Here we are. This you're looking at here is the steering gear and the idler arm bracket. And basically what we were going to do, so here's the two arms. You've got this one here is for the steering gear, and this one here is for the idler arm, and they're actually identical with one exception. If you look at them, they're bent exactly the same, just opposite of each other, right? So the idea was, and if you look at the steering gear, it's completely reversible, right? So the idea was to do a right-hand drive conversion to the car, and that may still be what I end up doing. However, once I got these off and got the arms off, I found out that the shafts on the idler are different sizes. So originally the plan was to, where these are identical, to just swap them over, wham bam thank you ma'am, you got a right hand drive conversion. Again, the problem is the shafts are different diameters, so we won't be able to do that. So what I'm gonna probably have to do is, I've been doing a lot of research trying to find a set of arms from Japan that are either for a right-hand drive car or something along those lines. So far I haven't had any luck, so if anybody knows where I can get right-hand drive steering components for a 68 through 70 Datsun Roadster, let me know, because I can't find any. But so if I can't find any, what I'm going to do is fabricate some out of some plate steel and make it reversible. If I decide that that's not safe or whatever reason, safety's never a question with me. So if I decide that's not what I want to do, I will end up putting this back on the other side. It's really not that hard. What I wanted to do real quick is just walk you through how to take one of these apart. This is slightly different than a lot of the other ones that I've done. If you've ever pulled a steering gear apart, a lot of times what it is there's a helical gear in there, and inside the gear runs a bunch of ball bearings, and as you turn, those ball bearings move the gear, which in turn move the shaft and do all the work, right? But on this one it's slightly different. So I was going to pull it apart, just show you guys how it worked. Alright, so what you'll do is, this hole here is basically for gear oil, or a lubricant to lube up the ball bearing that's in here. There's just one in here, I'll show you in a second. You can run this one, we're going to run 98 weight gear oil. Where it's older, it's not a huge deal. If it was a newer car, had power steering, I was going to race it, something along those lines, where it had the potential for getting hot and wearing out and there was a lot of load on it constantly, I'd maybe consider running a specialty oil. But for this one, I'm not going to. I'm just going to run some standard gear oil and be good with it. This one here is actually for adjusting the drag on the arm. So it basically tells you how much force it's going to take to turn those wheels with the steering wheel. This particular one, I've got it turned all the way up because I just put it back together not too long ago. So, but what you'll do to adjust it is you'll just loosen up this nut here, and then you'll just loosen or tighten this set screw based off of the needs of the car. So if it's too tight or it's too much effort or whatever, you'll loosen it up. If it's too loose and you got a lot of play in the wheel, you'll tighten it up.